This?
Yeah.
Well, that, and then, okay, we're live now. I guess I may need to turn on, maybe here, this one over here could be good. I was going to get it. That's okay.
You got that thing in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
Better?
Yeah, thank you, sweetheart. Maybe that one too. See what that one looks like. Yeah.
Do you need that one back there too?
Maybe. Still setting up the lighting. Oh, yeah. Not that. Okay, turn it down a little bit, please. Okay, yeah, that'll work.
Jesus.
Okay, well, that works. So, thank you. Yeah, we have a viewer. I don't know who it is, but whoever it is, welcome. We need to get the view count up. I may, let's see if I can get the chat up on my phone or on mobile here in a second, perhaps. Oh yeah, I need to share the link to this. Here we go. That's the first thing that I do every time is share the link. But I gotta get the word out. Hope everybody is doing well today. The one person that's with us right now. This is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything. And we'll try our best to answer it. The thumbnail is so dark.
I bet. I wonder if you can retake it.
Well, maybe not. I'll just leave it the way it is. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, YouTube community. James Lewis, who is that peeking behind you? I'm not sure who that is. Are you talking about from the beginning of the stream? Because that is my co-host, Sarah, who is going to go maybe live on Twitch or something later this evening. Maybe not. We haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, so it's going to take a minute to go set up.
Yeah, so. Yeah, welcome everybody. This is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything about YouTube, anything that's going on, questions, and we'll try our best to give an answer. Web pages taking a while to load, but that's fine. We got some time. Got 22 Facebook notifications. That's ridiculous. Sharing the link. Let me go ahead and grab the link for mobile and post it on Instagram. And then I'll share on Twitter and Facebook. Half this first part of the stream is going to be me looking down at my phone. Wait. Okay. Let's try this. Hello? Instagram. I feel like every time I am on Instagram trying to post something, I forget how to use it. Cool. I feel sorry for the people watching this on the playback, and I don't know how to make make it more interesting. We need to figure out how to get like picture in picture.
Yeah, is this gonna make it freak out?
What, turning on the stereo?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, the fact that it does that in the first place is like.
I don't want
No,
your dad's watching to freak out.
No, I mean, you know, I think we fixed that, so you can turn the stereo on.
Which one is it?
Power. See, well.
Jesus.
Well, see, again, the fact that it does that, I know the fact that it does that is stupid. I think it's okay.
For this one, for the TV?
No, yeah, that's the TV. Okay, sharing the link. Got a couple viewers in the chat. Yeah, this is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything about YouTube, the channel, movies and TV, what have you. COVID-19. I guess we may as well talk about that.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate this computer. That's not true.
Is this the video you took of the cookies?
One of them.
One of them. I like that. Make a film out of that. White Elephant has returned. Oh. The prodigal son has returned. What up? Didn't realize you would be live this late. Hey, we figured, because last time we were on here, we figured, you know, viewership is going to be up in the later hours or the evening because people are home from work and whatnot. And with everything going on right now, more people are inside, you know, including us. And so it's like, let's go live. Hope you're healthy right now. Hope you are too. You know, we're trying our best. I mean, you know, we're practicing quarantine to the fullest extent that we can because, you know, Sarah's an essential employee. And so we are trying to just, you know, take all the precautions that we can. Yeah. Springtime says hi. Hello, Springtime. Thank you for making the chat very lively last time. Let's hope we can do that again. I'm just sharing the link right now to the live stream on Instagram. So pardonnez-moi. Yeah, no, we're trying our best to stay healthy, and we'll see. Now, you know, we live in Tennessee, of course, and so Tennessee recently put out a shelter-in-place mandate, and so that has heavily reduced the amount of new cases. Although that could change in a few days because of you know, the fact that new cases may be underreported right now. And hospitals are waiting on results of, you know, tests and everything. So we'll see. But I guess it's fair to say when you think that this has become a much bigger deal than we thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
A month ago when we were, I don't, you know, in our defense, I don't want to say we were downplaying it.
I just didn't think we knew how serious.
We didn't know how widespread literally it was going to be. I mean, there was doubt early on whether it was even going to make it to our city.
And then it was like, it wasn't one of the first, but
now we have hundreds of cases. So, are you allowed to go to stores still? Yeah. I mean, you know, grocery stores, that's an essential trip. You know, there are other places that we have to go that are essential. And so that's why, you know, emergency workers are in place to help keep things up and running. I mean, you know, we just did like takeout from a restaurant, for example. So that's, I mean, we're doing that less than we usually do because we have food from the grocery store that we can fix. And so we're doing that. We're staying in more often, but yeah, life is different, but it could be a lot worse right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, we could be experiencing a Wuhan style lockdown, which would quickly contain the virus, but you know, that's, you know, I don't know. It's a little, I think shelter in place is going to be the best option if people follow it. Springtime, do you think sorry, there's a delay in me getting to the chat questions. Do you think the
I'll pull it up in a
pandemic
second.
will affect the Star Trek timeline? I will answer that in a minute because I think it will. I'll get to that. Really thought this was going to blow over by now. Yeah. Well, I think that I think the worst of this, at least for the United States, maybe in the future, not even in the past. I think, clearly our trend line has not started to plateau yet, or if it is, it's taking its time. The problem is that it's a new virus, and China tried silencing whistleblowers, so not very many people knew how bad it truly is.
That is very true.
That is extremely true. I mean, this is something that we don't really have immunity for outside of, well, really anywhere, because, I mean, coronavirus obviously is not new, but COVID-19 is, and the strain is much more, it's much deadlier than the flu if we're being realistic about the mortality rate, which is scary.
Yeah.
It really could be a lot worse. Yeah, there is. But as far as the question about Star Trek, let me finish posting this real quick, and I'll get to that.
I should definitely buy a game right now, huh?
What's on sale? Deals under 15.
A lot of stuff's on sale. Oh my god.
A lot of good-looking stuff. That's allergies, I promise.
I don't think sneezing is a symptom.
Sneezing is not a symptom of COVID-19. So.
Are we sure about that?
No, I mean, I looked it up. It's actually not.
Okay.
Fortunately, it's easy to tell.
Oh, God, yes.
What?
This. Bioshock collection.
Bioshock. Oh.
For $12.
Really?
Yeah.
The video game industry is making bank right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one. Okay, I'm looking for another one. I'm not gonna. White
Elephant. I really hope the U.S. builds a monument for. I guess is that the doctor that broke the silence, Lee.
I'm not sure.
When long. Did you see Onward? We have not watched it yet. We may watch it tonight. We may watch it another night, but yeah, we've been looking forward to that one for sure. Watch it for the first time Friday, and I cried. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we have friends that have watched it that said they really enjoyed it. Cassie said she's liking it so far. So. Springtime says USS Lee Windlong NCC 10782 Excelsior class. Yep. As far as the Star Trek question, I think that it very well could. I mean, if this outbreak is something that happens across timelines, and it's not something that's like a very random occurrence, because again, to our best knowledge, it originated in a food market in Wuhan.
A live animal.
Live animal food market that was selling things like bats and pangolins and animals like that are carriers of COVID-19 or coronavirus
or strains of
coronavirus like diseases.
Yeah.
But
that cannot be real.
What's going on? Dragon Ball Xenoverse
it's a $60 game for $9.
Wow. I wonder what the catch is.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely getting it.
Yeah, but
because I've got money to spend.
Exactly.
That's not true.
No, but seriously, if this outbreak is something that happens across timelines and is something that's more likely to happen than not at this particular time or somewhere around this time, because the timing is very much due to, I would say, or from what I've read, Chinese New Year migrations. That helps spread it.
Yeah.
But anyway, then yes, it would affect the Star Trek timeline. It would affect the Fringe time, just as it would affect the Fringe timeline if it happened there. The societal changes that will emerge from this. But I actually was going to put in a video, upcoming video that we're developing about the Bell riots. Remember last time we were talking about this? This probably, I'm going to try and have it out in May or so. About past tense, the Deep Space Nine episode with the sanctuary districts. I mean, something like this could contribute to a very turbulent economy for extended period of time in the early 2020s. That's an angle that I think I may include in my research. Food markets are open again. Did China not learn their lesson? Well, they did. They did take care of the virus pretty. I wouldn't say pretty quickly, but I mean, like I said, the lockdowns that they had, the quarantines that they had were very extensive, and they built new hospitals, and so they've been treating it. Now, that doesn't mean that they should go back to selling live animals again. They shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. So we'll see. There could be multiple outbreaks. There really could. I'm not ruling that out.
Oh my god! Look how much this was without the discount.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So that's the collection. How many games are in the Bioshock collection? 3. And then what was the other one?
The Xenoverse Dragon Ball one.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to help our foreign relations with the PRC. Yeah, I mean,
Do I need to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's up?
Nothing. I'm thinking about if I need it or if I just impulsively ignore me. Keep talking.
Okay. I don't want to ignore you, but I mean, if you want to buy them, they're on sale. Buy them, because carpe diem. No, but seriously, I don't think it's going to help residents of the PRC. Yeah, I'm not sure what our trade situation is with them right now. I mean, I would imagine it's we're not shipping as much from over there as we are. In fact, I know we're not, because tech companies have said that this is going to impact launches of new things like the next iPhones and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Homeless problem will be worse, unfortunately, by 2022 because of the job losses during the outbreak. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And again, that is something that I will factor directly into the narrative for this video. Why elephant? Yeah, animals literally no space for each other. I mean, yeah, it's the conditions. They don't have a lot of regulation of their food markets.
I guess I have to make some tough choices now.
Oh, you have to delete something?
Yeah, there's not enough space.
Oh, so what do you?
I don't want to delete these.
Yeah.
But I think I might have to.
Please buy the Lego 500 First Battle Pack when it comes out. Were you big into Lego when you were younger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Moderately. I was less so, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of creativity that can come out of that. You shouldn't have to get rid of those.
But I think I might have to.
But those are images, right? They're not videos.
I'll delete the videos.
Yeah, delete the videos.
Oh my god. They're all like 30 fucking minutes.
Anybody who's just now joining us, I know we're up to 5 viewers. This is our Q&A live stream, monthly Q&A live stream. So ask us anything about YouTube, the channel, movies and TV, COVID-19, whatever you want, and we'll try our best to answer it.
No.
Please buy it and review it. Yeah, we'll look. I used to do product reviews, so maybe we can branch out into Lego set reviews. Sadly, in Star Trek World War III, may become between USA and China instead of the what's FC in USA versus the Econ.
I think we're gonna have to delete these.
Delete that.
Look at the little bar on the side.
Yeah, that is a lot of screenshots. Kinsey K, the Corona goes stir. Man, I've been meaning to talk to you, Kinsey. How have you, as a GameStop employee, been dealing with this outbreak? Because I know that GameStop was making their stores stay open for longer than they probably should have been. So, yeah, what's up with that, Kinsey?
All right, I think
Kinsey's in the chat.
I love these. Oh god.
Well, can you put those on like a card or something? An SD card?
One.
You don't have one? I can get you one. You know those 16 gigabyte flash drives that I have in my room upstairs? You can get one of those and transfer as much of that as you want.
No, I'll take it.
You would take, well.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. Where are they?
They're under the AA batteries on the shelf. First contact, yeah. FC. No, I mean, I'm curious about.
Here.
What's that? Ooh. Yeah, the econ. I because there's like non-canon books that deal with the political makeup of the econ and the history and how all of that kind of formulated together. So yeah, I mean, and I also think about games like Fallout that have China, even though that's an completely alternate timeline with different history of the Cold War, that China does end up being a big adversary. So I'm curious how that pans out. Kenzie K. Um, yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah, when she gets back. So.
What?
It's Kenzie's reply. Yeah. His non-specific game employer is dealing with some issues with their employees. I'll say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
Sucks.
Yeah. Sorry about that. All right, I'm sharing this to Twitter and Facebook. The link. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the economic consequences that are going to come out of this are going to be very profound. It's going to change the way that we look at. Because I mean, we're thinking. I'm not going to really feel comfortable at this point, like sitting down in a restaurant until maybe June or July. If I'm being frank, because who knows what could happen between now and then as well. White elephant. Today, church announced our second temple in China will be built in Shanghai. Honestly, never witnessed that. That's really neat. Kinsey K. As an employee of non-specific game retailer, they can lose particles during Scotty Beam Me Up for all I care. Oh, man. Kinsey K is in the chat. This is also, by the way, I do want to talk about this. This has impacted plans that we have for film production because, first of all, I am a production assistant. I'm a gig worker. I'm a freelance worker, and so when productions come into town, like for example, reality shows, and then every now and then something that's sponsored by Facebook or whatever, will come in and hire production assistants to help run things, and so. As a gig worker, I am in big trouble right now because nothing's coming into town. Nothing's filming right now. Everything's been canceled. And so I'm having to rely entirely on a combination of ad revenue, crowdsourcing money from things like Patreon and Teespring. And if this stimulus check, there's the stimulus bill that just got passed, if that money comes in, that'll help a little bit to pay like bills and whatnot, which is good. I'm glad they did that. Although I will say, if we can talk about that for a second, I feel like college students got screwed big time.
Oh, there's no doubt we did.
Because the check that would be coming to our families would be for not us. It would be for our parents, which is good, and I'm glad that they're getting it. But we work. We work. It may be part-time, but we work. And so, she's still in school. And so I feel like we do deserve, a good $1,200 check for at least 1 month, if not more. Kinsey K coming through with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. I love you. Thank you so much. Sending a $5 for just being a cool duder. Live long and prostate or whatever they say. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kinsey. I really appreciate it. And I apologize because I have been not keeping an eye on the chat. Springtime. Personal backstory for the econ is that they are anti-China and become anti-USA and anti-Russian, and shit gets real. The econs probably has Australia, New Zealand, and India as members. That's interesting because they say it's not really nation states that compete in World War III. It's factions that are separate from the nation states. So the Eastern Coalition because I think in some books it says it includes Pakistan as well. India and Pakistan would never join in an alliance over anything, at least not in this century. So, as Picard was mistaken for an econ soldier, that's right, he was, and he's Caucasian, and so but they still mistook him as an econ soldier in First Contact. So, yeah, factions. And they obviously thought the Borg that were fighting were. Did you? Is that going to work?
Yeah,
the transfer.
This is a lot.
Well, how do you know how many gigs it is? Because that drive, I think, holds 16 gigs.
Those are all pictures.
Yeah. So what about the videos?
I deleted the videos.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, the pictures, you can move that onto there and you'll have 15 gigs left over. Hey, let's talk about Star Trek Picard a little bit, and maybe in a second. Cassidy W., 4 of mine have been canceled. I know, right? Thank you, Cassidy W., for joining us. No, but seriously, yeah. I mean, the shoots that we normally would be getting, because there at one point was like at least one a week, and that was really good for Memphis. And so it sucks, and I think it may pick back up in the summer. But yeah, this is going to be a tough time. This is going to make November 6th really interesting, says Springtime. I 100% agree, because right now, the Trump administration, their handling of the crisis, I'm curious what public perception is of it, because I wouldn't be surprised if enough people thought he was doing a fine job, even though the contrary exists. In our opinion, of course. Mm-hmm. White Elephant, I have mixed feelings about the stimulus bill. Yeah, I mean, so do we. I think that, I think it will help. I think it could have been better. I think they should have not screwed over adult dependents, which is what we are, because we're able to be claimed on other people's taxes. That doesn't, in my opinion, in our opinions, it does not mean that we should be excluded from receiving checks, because, like I said, we do work. We pay taxes. We pay income tax. I pay self-employment tax. So we're contributors to this society. But, we'll take what we get, and it's better than nothing. Although it is also the biggest corporate giveaway in history, U.S. history, $4.5 trillion in corporate giveaways. And so, that should have been a separate bill that some of the more progressive leaning senators and Congress people could have voted down on. Anybody new coming into the chat, this is our monthly Q&A live stream. And so just ask us anything about the channel, about YouTube, about movies and TV, COVID-19, what have you. We'll try our best to answer it. I know people may be getting sick of that spiel. Pakistan is a good friend of the PRC. That is true. Star Trek Picard was interesting versus Star Trek Discovery. Yeah, we'll talk about Picard in a second. By the way, any of you who are visiting my channel page will see probably the premiere page for our 49-minute Star Trek Picard Season 1 review. And so you can check that out when it premieres Tuesday at noon Central Daylight Time. We didn't hold back on it, but we did enjoy it. I will say we did enjoy it.
We enjoyed it despite the flaws.
We enjoyed it despite its flaws, which you can see, and we can probably talk about that a little bit. Give a preview of our thoughts on that. Why Elephant? I'm pissed because I was supposed to see Dear Evan Hansen on their travel tour, but not anymore. Yeah, I mean,
I would be pissed about that too.
Yeah, I would be pissed about that too. Concerts and all the stuff, NBA games, football games, all the stuff getting canceled. It's very, very weird times that we're living in. Nobody's going to be buying as much for some time. Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. Why Elephant? I don't like stimulus, but at the same time, if the government shuts stuff down, people still need the money they would have normally earned. That's exactly right. And that's why I think that's the main reason that, even conservative Republicans, like recognizing the situation they were in, we're still in favor of it, because I mean, these are unprecedented times. It's an unprecedented situation. So we're in total agreement there. Although I think this may be a good trial run for like a universal basic income or something akin to that, like Andrew Yang was talking about during his campaign. Happy first contact day to you too. White Elephant, I think Trump's doing great personally. Well, I disagree there, sir. I'm sorry, but yeah, I think that there is a lot more that he could be doing. For example, this Wartime Powers Act that was passed to get these companies to manufacture ventilators and other equipment for hospitals, because there's a shortage at this point, or there will be very soon. He did not direct any specific companies to make those extra ventilators. Now, in fairness, the companies themselves did step up to do that, but they should, he should have, again, in my opinion, he should have directed them, like specific companies, to specifically manufacture ventilators and other things. Also, the administration was very slow to respond to the coming of the coronavirus to the United States, and he was so downplaying it. And again, none of us really expected it to be as big as it has gotten, but
it wouldn't have been as bad.
It would not have acted. It would not have been as bad if we had taken preventative measures earlier. Like South Korea did. That goes for a lot of other governments too. It's not just him, but he is part of that issue, and the way we see it.
Someone pointed out that the virus got to South Korea in the same amount of time it got to here, and they took extreme action, and not like 100-something people died.
Yeah.
Versus our 200,000 or
2,000 over 2,000. But like, it may be more than that, but like, and again, the US is geographically different. We have a bigger population, but still we are, we're the hot spot now in the world, and we could have avoided that, I think, if we had taken some preventative measures. Springtime, how do you think Average Joe thought about first contact in 2061, just 10 years after a massive Cold War, or I guess it was at 2063? That's very an interesting question, because I mean, it's basically how would humans have reacted to that? I think it obviously, what we saw in Enterprise, it took a very long time to gain the trust of the Vulcans. I would say there was a lot of skepticism initially, and understandably so. But yeah, that would be my guess, which is why I would love to see a mini-series documenting the period between First Contact and Enterprise. So yes, another prequel, but something cool.
There's stories there, though.
There are stories there. It's Corona time, says hello. It is Corona time. That it is. I mean, you're not wrong. It is Corona.
Think of that hamster TikToker.
It is Corona time. Yeah. White Elephant, deep inside, I would not pass the stimulus bill. I wouldn't, because it would allow the best companies to survive, and in the future they would survive any other pandemic. I guess I'm a Darwinist. Well, I think you're actually onto something there, because I don't think that a lot of the companies that are receiving the stimulus money really do need it. For example, the cruise line industry. Are we really bailing out the cruise line industry? Are you kidding me? Let that die on its own. Jesus. I mean, just, I don't know. I hate cruise ships when there's not a pandemic going on anyway, but like, that's an example, but no, I mean, I think there's actually an alliance of conservatives and progressives who are against government bailouts for some of these big companies, because everybody recognizes that it's BS. FedEx, which a lot of us know people or have people in our families that work for, they did not accept any bailout money. So good on them.
Right.
Because also their business is booming right now. So that is a reason, but good on them for recognizing they don't need that shit.
The only companies that need it are the essential.
The essential company. I mean, that's like it's the question, for example, like, how would you have handled the auto industry bailout in 2008? I would have bailed out the auto industry because, I mean, that's again, people like to meme about the left wanting the cars to go by the wayside. That's a separate conversation, but I mean, those are I know.
I know. I believe you. I was surprised.
Yeah. No, but like seriously, the auto industry, I think, deserved a bailout because those workers, provide a service and manufacturing that is, if not essential, then a something in everyday life that if we were without it, we would be in a very tricky situation. I don't think that we should have bailed out the banks, however. In fact, we should have broken them up. Now, Lehman Brothers collapsed. Merrill Lynch, actually, during the recession last time, I think they built their business back up by investing in other things such as film production, and they financed a lot of the early Marvel movies, which is interesting.
I didn't think about Boeing being,
And Boeing also, I mean, Jesus, these companies already make billions in revenue. And
I feel worse for that company than the cruise lines because that is an essential thing. People getting to and from.
Yeah. The airline industry, again, these things, we're not saying they deserve to die off, but I think that what you mentioned, White Elephant, about letting the strongest companies survive and the other companies try to get through it the best they can, with a few exceptions, is generally like that's better capitalism than what we're practicing right now. That's how market forces are supposed to dictate, because you're not supposed to have monopolies. You're not supposed to have, I mean, that's corporate socialism, quite literally, because it's government money, taxpayer money, that is funding the bailouts of these big companies. Meeting space aliens probably didn't seem all that important with all of Earth's problems, and how did the Vulcans help if they are anti-interference? That's true, and the Vulcans did hold back Earth technologically for a long time, or at least the NX program. White Elephant, at the same time, when they want people to have food and a roof, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
It's Corona time. America has been hit hard. Over 300,000 cases. Really going overboard. Yeah, it's scary here, man. It really is. It's not pretty. Yeah, cruise lines don't need bailout money. Give me a break. Jesus Christ. Boeing. I'm sorry. I'm just catching up on the chat. Yeah. We should not have saved the banks. Total agreement there. We would have better banks right now if we had a survival of the fittest moment. Yeah. Again, no disagreement there at all. I think that's 100% right. The banks should have just been allowed to, weather the storm as much as they could on their own, because they're the ones that low-key caused the recession, or policies that allowed the banks to play casino capitalism led to the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. Yeah. Springtime. I'm reading Barbarians at the Gates about LBO and RGR and Nabisco. Awesome. Fill us in on how that's going, because that I have all these. I know that's this is slightly off topic. I have a lot of Star Trek books that are up in my room on my bookshelf that I have not gotten to yet. I have more time now, so I should be able to get to them. If it weren't for the stimulus bill right now, we wouldn't have monopolies, I feel like. Yeah, again, I would have separated the stimulus bill into two parts. I would have separated it into bailout money for the population, like workers, and bailout money for industries. And I understand why they put it in one package, but I just don't think they should have done that. Are you going on Twitch?
I am.
Okay. We'll drop a link to that in the chat in a little bit.
That's what I was going to check out like an hour. I felt like an hour ago. It's only been like 20 minutes.
Well, we've been live for 40 minutes, so.
Oh, great. car's about to die.
Oh, what are you going to do about that?
My charger should work. It's the same kind of connector.
Yeah. All right. White elephant. I feel like Trump passed the stimulus bill because he's scared about the election. That is a I'm signing into law. I'm presuming you mean that is a possibility. And of course, that actually was his administration that was pushing it, along with the Treasury and Republican senators. So I mean, you know, like I said, I feel like they recognize what's going on, and that's why they did it. I don't know why he's scared because Joe Biden is a pushover. I mean, you're not wrong about that either. Joe Biden, if I can rant for a second, because you all know, the people on the stream, if you're not familiar, you're about to learn my political leanings. You know, I've supported Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020. I believed in his candidacy genuinely. And so, understandably, I'm disappointed that he's not doing as well. And I think that Joe Biden is one of the worst people that could have been propped up. I say propped up, nominated, although propped up is still, I think, an apt term because there's a lot of, you know, people in the Democratic Party and, you know, in the media who gave his candidacy more attention. And I feel like underreported and on Bernie Sanders and treated him as a non-serious candidate, even though I think that's not true. But Joe Biden is not in a good position right now. I mean, he's tied with Trump in the polls, and, you know, I generally, you know, polls like that, you know, tend to swing in a more conservative direction than in a more liberal direction. And so I feel like he is not the favorite to win in November, even with all of this going on, which is insane on a historical scale, because generally when the economy tanks, the president that's in office does not get reelected, but that may not be true this time because, as we were talking about earlier, I feel like enough people, not the majority, but enough people may feel like preserving the system we have now, and voting that way at the ballot box. White elephant. I would honestly vote Bernie over Joe, and I'm very right wing. Yeah, that's the thing. Bernie Sanders has a lot of crossover appeal to conservatives. He does. Joe Rogan's endorsement, for example, you know, people were talking about this on Twitter. Joe Rogan said that he would not vote for Joe Biden, and a lot of people got mad because Joe Rogan said he would vote for Bernie Sanders, but not for Joe Biden. And it's like, okay, that's really an indictment of Joe Biden, because Bernie Sanders obviously had enough appeal to those people who are more right-leaning, who would consider voting for a Democrat. So the Democratic Party is screwed at this point. I mean, they really are, I think.
Hey, to change the subject completely, how do you make instrumentals? Asks.
Yeah. Sorry that if I'm getting off on these deep tangents, but I'm trying to. I do want to get to everybody's question, obviously. How do I make the instrumentals? That's a good question. So I used to put those on my channel, and if you're referencing the ERB instrumentals, for example, I take bits and pieces from behind the scenes videos, karaoke's, and just people will upload the raw beat itself straight from the producer, and I stitch those together. I try to edit them to make them sound like the instrumental for the battle, as opposed to just, like I said, a raw unedited beat. And I'd try my best. I don't have a lot of software music making tools. I basically just use like video editing software to edit that audio, and I just put a picture over it. But that's how I do it. It's not, there are people who are better than me at doing it. So defer to them, I would say, about how they use like MIDI keyboards and FL Studio and all that kind of music production. I don't know much about that. Springtime, do you think that the Vulcans were trying to make United Earth into a sort of puppet state? They could have been, because I feel like they had Earth humans under like an iron, not really an iron grip, but just they were holding us back technologically in terms of warp flight, for example. Maybe not every other area, but like they were trying to control us for sure. The book I'm reading is about a CEO who tried to buy his company and ended up destroying it in the bidding war of the late 1980s. Interesting. I'm actually working on a timeline on alternatehistory.com. I haven't posted anything yet, but you can go there right now to see my fringe timeline. There's updated version 2.0 that I posted in 2018, 2019. But like, you can read that. It's just a alternate history timeline, and I'm doing one. I like to do one about Star Trek, but I'm doing one about just different political parties being in power at different points throughout the late 20th and early 21st century in the United States, and how that would affect like economics and whatnot. Springtime. Sadly, Trump just found his war. Yeah, I mean, this could help him, and that's weird to think about. So we'll just have to see. White Elephant. If Biden wins the nomination, will you vote green? That's an excellent question, and the answer to that is absolutely yes. I may vote green because, and the main reason I feel comfortable doing that is because I live in Tennessee, of course, and Tennessee is a red state. It's going to stay a red state for the foreseeable future. I don't think anything is going to change that for at least a generation. And so I voted in 2016 for Jill Stein, even though I don't agree with her on everything. I think she's maybe a little crazy, but I do think she had good policy proposals. And so I would vote green again. I would advise people in a swing state. Again, I'm not telling people how to vote. I would advise people who live in swing states like Michigan and Ohio to vote for, if they want to avoid a Trump presidency, to vote for Biden, because but you can do what you want. But yes, I'm voting Green Party probably. Bernie Sanders is the only one of the only candidates I would vote for in the general election, like if I were voting for a Democrat. So therefore, I don't know what I am going to do in 2024, for example, because we're not really sure who is going to be the front runner in 2024. Is it Andrew Cuomo? It could be. I would maybe vote for him, although I'm not sure. So, springtime. I wasn't fond of Joe Biden. Yeah, his record is very sketchy.
Doesn't he have like several sexual assault allegations?
He also has multiple sexual assault allegations against him.
Is allegations the right word?
Well, I mean, they are allegations. They may or may not be true, although I have reason to believe that they may be true.
Right.
They're not like charges or anything. But he does have multiple sexual assault allegations, and funny enough, a lot of white liberals are kind of downplaying that, which is hypocritical, I think, given everything that we just experienced over the past few years with Me Too, #MeToo. So that's really unfortunate. Is your alternate history real history or Star Trek? So the alternate history timeline that I'm working on now is not related to Star Trek. It's basically, I'll give the premise. It's basically just like a party, a white whatever party is in the White House post 1972 and onward is just the reverse of what it is, and just to see how that plays out. It's just a thought exercise. But I will be posting about it more soon, and I may make a video about it too. Become alternate history head. Will you do a Star Trek kind of theory, like Star Wars theory? I have multiple Star Trek theories that I'd like to implement. One of them being alternate history related. So the past tense video will be coming out in May, probably. We have to start the research for that soon. White Elf, I was wondering, since you shared the fact that you voted for Jill Stein. Yeah, like I said, Howie Hawkins, currently, who actually I think co-founded the Green Party, is the current front runner. I'll look at the specific policy proposals that the Green candidate is proposing, and if I feel like, although I think I would vote for somebody significantly to the left of me, and I don't. I hate it because Bernie is a special candidate, because I feel like he never again may we see somebody who agrees with us on like over 90% of the issues, who is a major party candidate. White Elephant, I say vote Trump. I don't think we'll be doing that, but you certainly can. Absolutely. Free country. Sadly, if things don't get better with COVID-19, a lot of scared people will be tempted to vote for Trump over Biden. This is from Springtime. That's how I feel, because, like I said, I think people may think that the system that's keeping them alive right now, currently, even though a lot of people are dying, that the system keeping them alive, keep the status quo. And again, also something else we were talking about earlier, the functional policy differences between Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not that many, because Joe Biden is a rather conservative Democrat, even by national standards. And so, like, generally when there's two candidates running who have a similar outlook, which is, austerity, basically, although Trump is less into austerity these days than Joe Biden is. But anyway, two rather conservative candidates, the incumbent usually wins in an election like that. It's happened before, and it will definitely happen again. Why did Obama make Biden his VP? What was he thinking? Obama is 100 times better than Biden. This is coming from White Elephant.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. I mean, Joe Biden was mainly picked, I think, to appeal to like Southern white Democratic voters.
Obama knew how to play his base.
Yeah, Obama was a great campaigner. He was a great I say great politician. He was good at #winning. Not necessarily governing, but he was good at campaigning. And so that's why he won 2 elections in a row, and in relative landslides for the modern age. Not by historical standards, but by modern standards, landslides, especially in the Electoral College. Biden has a lot of dirt on him. He's very lucky he did not get exposed during Trump's impeachment, since the Republicans have that power. And he also says, I love history. So yeah, I do too. And so I'm going to have a lot more history videos coming out soon. Will you do a 1912 alternate history with the Bull Moose Party election and Taft winning? I don't think Taft would have won that election. Just curious, since that's an interesting election. If anything, I think, I'm curious to see, or I would explore a timeline where Teddy Roosevelt won as a candidate of the Bull Moose Party, because the Bull Moose Party was like, had kind of lit. They were like proposing national health care and things like that in the early 20th century. No, Teddy Roosevelt, I think, was a really, really interesting character. And I don't, if we're going by policies as president, I don't agree with everything that he did, but he was also really big into like campaign finance reform and some other progressive kind of priorities, which is what I would like to explore is maybe if Taft and Roosevelt had maybe mended fences, and Roosevelt ran as a Republican in 1912, if he had won over Wilson, although I'm not sure, I think Wilson was just the favorite in that election anyway, but like if Teddy Roosevelt had won, maybe if his nephew or his cousin FDR had run as a Republican, and the Republicans were the ones that did the New Deal, and so the Republicans would be the left-wing party, and the Democrats would be the conservative party. So like Eisenhower would be a Democrat. George McGovern would be a Republican. Something weird like that. That would be interesting. Springtime. I'm actually interested in how Trump would get elected president in the Star Trek universe. Timeline post eugenics wars. that's something I would like to explore as well. I think that somebody on Reddit, on the Daystrom Institute subreddit, did a timeline, a theoretical timeline about how the line of presidents that we know, like in real life, could still get elected. Because in Enterprise, we see that George W. Bush was still in office in 2001 in the Star Trek history, because they show 9/11, they show him succeeding Bill Clinton. They don't. There's no references to Obama, but in non-canon sources there are. So that's called convergent history, when you're trying to fold it back onto our reality, what we're familiar with. But there, it could happen. I could do a video about that. White elephant. I think Trump will destroy Biden at the debates. I think you're probably right about that, because Biden, I don't think, will do well in the debates. His cognitive state, for one thing, but also Trump can run to the left of Biden on a lot of issues, which is really weird. That would have been something completely unthinkable as recently as like 2012 in political terms. So that's, yeah. The Democratic Party is screwed big time if they don't make some serious changes. If Bernie Sanders were Biden's VP, that would be one of the only ways I think he could win. But Biden has said he's going to pick a woman as his vice presidential candidate, which in and of itself I think is not a bad thing, obviously.
Right.
Because we're overdue for a female president. I mean, we really are. I just don't think we found the right one yet. Anyway.
I'm an idiot.
What's up?
Nothing. I just.
Oh yeah. You're still live, right? Let me get the Twitch link.
I've already gotten it. Okay.
Biden is just mimicking Trump, so he looks conservative. I don't know. His record was already pretty conservative for a Democrat long before Trump came on the political scene. I may expand upon that in a minute. I mean, again, Iraq War, NAFTA. He co-wrote a bankruptcy bill that removed the ability of students to default on their student loans, which is criminal, I think. Yeah. That would be cool to study if Teddy won as a bull moose and was president during World War I, then Wilson would have been president. I think he died in 1919. Yeah. I mean, if Wilson had come along maybe as the conservative Democrat in the 1920s, and then the Democrats would own the 20s, and then when the Great Depression struck, here comes a Republican FDR with his same New Deal policies based on what his, elder cousin had already tried to implement in the 19-teens. I may explore that, because then people like, Charlie Baker, for example, would get farther in Republican primaries, and then the Democrats would still have a stranglehold on the South, as it were. It's foreign from what we know in our timeline. It's weird to think of Teddy as a progressive since he was a Republican. Yeah, I mean, exactly. But the Republican Party up to that point, in my view, had been, definitely more economically left. Definitely more socially left, but also economically left comparatively to the Democrats. Although William Jennings Bryan kind of changed that paradigm, because he was a populist Democrat in the 1890s, early 1900s. Did you hear that the Prime Minister of the UK is in hospital because of COVID-19? Yes, Boris Johnson is in the hospital. Yep. It's from Springtime. White Elephant, I'm going to look at those history vids. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. What happened to the Enterprise E from Springtime? I guess it got decommissioned or something, because it's obviously not the flagship. It's the USS Zhenghe, or however you pronounced it.
Yeah.
But I think the Enterprise F, would be probably the subsequent, in my view, flagship, given a few years, like the early 25th century, because Star Trek Online has it that way. I think it would be interesting to see, this is from White Elephant, if Hillary won in 2016 with North Korea, COVID-19, Paris Agreement, Jerusalem, ISIS, Iran, so much more. You're so right. I mean, you know, at this point, I think we're, a lot of us, it's not unanimous, but I think a lot of us are in agreement that we may have rather have had her as president.
I think, yeah. Oh my God.
I thought that she, going into election night, I thought that she was going to have a narrow win. I did not expect Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan to flip to. I mean, because they had not voted red since 1988, and that was a year that states like California and Oregon were still voting, and Illinois were still voting Republican. So that was very unexpected. Although in hindsight, we should have maybe seen that coming. So
you want me to drop a link to it?
I guess so, because what I'm looking at is just your page, although it should be on your page. Do you mean to do it, or do you want to
do it? It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, drop that in the chat. Sarah's live on Twitch, streaming Abzu, which is an independent diving game made by Giant Squid Studios. And we'll switch over to something else in a little bit, perhaps.
Maybe Red Dead.
Maybe Red Dead.
We want to get the last 2 achievements in this game.
Springtime. Could this be the end of the Democratic Party as we know it? I hate to say it, but probably. I mean, maybe not probably. Maybe. I think we are potentially in the middle of a realignment, and it's not the kind of realignment that I was hoping for. I was hoping that we would be able to have like a Democratic Socialist, wing take over the Democratic Party, or Social Democrat, I should say, and have the Republicans, become more like libertarian. But that's obviously not happening. We're in the middle of a Republican Party that's turning slowly nationalist, and a Democratic Party that is becoming just, conservative in the sense that they're not in favor of big revolutionary change. So that is going to define our future, and it's not pretty. To somebody like me who would have rather have had a social democratic president on the left. What do you think happened to the United Nations and Star Trek because it's not around by at least the 2020s? Well, the UN in real life, in my opinion, is kind of a joke. I mean, any organization that has Saudi Arabia on a human rights panel is, loses credibility in my mind. Although I think they sometimes put out good science reports, for example. But I think we should have something like the UN that exists, because I think it's capable of good. So like Rwanda, for example, I mean, that was a mass mobilization of countries, a UN coalition to, stop a genocide. I mean, I think we should have something like the UN, but it needs big reforms. Red Sky just dropped a link to a stream, PS4 stream on her Twitch channel, so you can go simulcast that. We're up to 8 viewers. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is our monthly Q&A live stream.
Did you just... Never mind.
What?
Nothing.
The shark. What's up?
Nothing. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah. Ask us anything about YouTube, our YouTube channel, movies and TV, COVID-19, what have you. I would love to see. Okay, I already read that. White Elephant didn't expect Trump to win either. Yeah, I don't think Trump expected Trump to win. His team literally did not think that he was going to win, and he did not win the popular vote, which I think is worthy of mentioning. Not, I think that people who say that the fact that he didn't win the popular vote makes him illegitimate. I mean, in a technical sense, that's not true, because he won the way that we elect presidents, which is not by popular vote. It's by, winner take all in a state-based electoral system. So he did win that way. Although I think voter suppression may have happened in those states, but probably did happen. But even taking that into account, Hillary, if she really, really wanted to win and deserved to win, should have run a better campaign. And I will never apologize for saying that.
I think the problem also was that everyone expected her to win.
Yeah.
And they all kind of just slacked off.
Yeah, that's true. Apathy, but also, like you said, just people expecting her to win that didn't turn out for her. I will never blame third parties because I think they're only like a secondary factor. I mean, the fact, I don't think blaming third parties makes sense because more Democrats voted for Trump than voted for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein combined, So I think that's worthy of mentioning. I think the fact that he did not win the popular vote. I mean, I just don't like the Electoral College. I think we should get rid of it. And I understand the argument that it's there to represent small rural states. But my response to that would be that's what we had the Senate for. There's also an argument that the Senate should be abolished.
I don't know. What?
Which I don't necessarily agree with that. There is an argument that exists, is all I'm saying, but like I think the Electoral College is outdated, and I think that it would actually be more beneficial to everybody if Democratic and Republican candidates visited every major metropolitan area in every state and also visited rural areas. Hillary's main issue in 2016 is that she under-campaigned in rural areas in like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I mean, she should have not overestimated her chances of winning those states, even though we all thought that she was going to win those states. She should have campaigned in those states more. Trump is a populist, which is a weird thought, but it's true. Kind of. I mean, he's a populist in the sense that he's like appealing to popular opinions on like to his base. He's a populist in that he's appealing to fears about immigration from people on the right. He's a populist in the sense that he said he was not going to cut Medicare or Social Security, even though his latest budget cuts Medicare and Social Security. He was a populist in his rhetoric in saying that he was not going to outsource as many jobs, even though he's outsourced a lot of jobs. So I think that a lot of that was big talk, and he's not walking the walk, as it were.
He was saying what he needed to say.
He was saying what he needed to say to get elected. And Hillary, I think, in her campaign, and again, it's not entirely her fault, but it's mainly her dumbass campaign staffers that just did not know how to respond to him. What is wrong with being nationalist? Why Elephant says, well, it's just a matter of definition. I mean, nationalism can go in different directions. The Nazis were nationalists, but I don't think all nationalists are bad. I think that nationalism in economic sense in particular, like the charitable definition is like you have a vested interest in making sure that your country's key industries are up and running and that your country's workers are well taken care of. That's not really nationalism in the way that political scientists define it, though. So, I mean, and again, I'm not making a Trump-Hitler comparison. I'm really not. But what I'm saying is that nationalism often goes hand in hand with very, in our opinion, pretty nasty social beliefs. It sucks, Anim8orkid, that you and I will have to pay off the stimulus bill for the rest of our lives. I mean, that's from White Elephant. The Treasury, and again, in reference to the corporate bailouts, yeah, that is very unfortunate. The Treasury, was able to pay for that. I'm not sure how, but they were able to pay for it somehow. They just made more money. I mean, the Federal Reserve doesn't make money, but the Treasury does. So they were able to mint, I'm sure, some more money. If this is the end, here, I'm sorry, I'm skipping over some of these things. I'm not a big fan of the UN. This is from Springtime, saying they have a bad habit of bringing more problems to areas that need their help. That's probably true. White Elephant, if this is the end of the Democratic Party, I hope it is reborn as the Jefferson/Jacksonian Democratic Party. In some sense, perhaps, because the Democratic Party was founded to make sure that the voices of lay people like farmers had a voice in government. So in that sense, it was good. Again, Thomas Jefferson is not one of our favorite presidents. Not really not. Slightly influenced by Hamilton, the musical. But also, I mean, I just disagree with, again, I rate presidents based on policy, so I just disagree with some of the policy decisions that he made. I think that both parties at that point, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, and then later the Democrats and the Whigs, both fairly conservative by modern standards. Controller's dying. You have a charger, you said, right?
I think this one might work. Maybe. We'll see in a second.
This is from, okay, well, White Elephant. What is wrong with being nationalist in the U.S.? I think it's important to be proud of America. Well, that's patriotism. That's not nationalism. That's patriotism. Patriotism is different, and I think people can be over patriotic for sure, to the point that it does become like.
You can be proud of your country, but you can't.
Yeah.
Ignore. Oh.
Wait, are you going to be able to plug it in?
Do you have like an old charger?
Well, what kind of port is it? Is it USB? Oh, I'm sure I have something. Does look in there real quick.
Keep talking.
And see if the Wii U Pro controller charger. Yes, I have a Wii U. Wii U Pro controller charger will fit. Is that the same USB connector?
No.
Okay. Do you want to go ask my dad if he has a charger that is like this? Because I think he might. It's fine.
Well, let's see how long this lasts.
Well, do you want it to charge, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Just go ask him. Or here, do you want to sit here while I go ask him?
No, it's okay. You're talking. You're mid-sentence. It's
okay.
Fine. We'll deal with this when it dies.
Okay. I just don't want you to stop playing before you want to stop playing.
I know.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah.
As you were saying.
But yeah, again, contrary to what it may seem, and I know I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything. I'm not responding to you. I'm just saying, contrary to what some people may think about people with our political beliefs, at least I do. I like America, except I think it has a lot of problems that need fixing. I think it's patriotic to criticize your country.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying that you would disagree with that, because you probably wouldn't. But Vic says you look like a Gilbert. Okay. In Star Trek, the United Nations also doesn't last very long, so the UN is an even bigger joke in that universe. Yeah. Although eventually a UN-like organization does become the government, United Earth, although it's different. I made a video about that, the politics of Star Trek's Federation. You should go watch that if you haven't already. White Elephant, I think we should keep the Electoral College so it can protect people from the uneducated mob. Some of the founding fathers said pure democracy is an evil, and I agree. Well, we don't have pure democracy. We live in a republic. It's a democratic republic. We elect representatives, obviously, to carry out our interest. In theory, that's what they're supposed to do. But mob rule, I mean, yeah, mob rule is not good, but I just think that the person that wins more votes should be elected president. It's one position out of all the government positions. And again, I as somebody who does have sympathy to populist movements in the country, I think that it's anti-populist to keep the Electoral College because it elects sometimes the person that doesn't win the popular vote. So I just disagree. No presidential candidate has ever visited Anchorage.
Really?
That's interesting. I know Richard Nixon and Obama visited. Well, I don't know if Obama visited Alaska. He ran ads in Alaska in 2008. Cool. But yeah, Nixon visited all 50 states. Now he lost subsequently. That was due to, I think, factors other than him visiting all 50 states. I think he could have won if certain other conditions have been different. I think the Democrats should actually adopt a 50-state strategy, not because they would win all 50 states, but I think they should not take for granted certain places. Like, Obama very nearly came very close to winning states like Montana and Missouri, states that we consider to be pretty red states today. He won Indiana in 2008, so I think they should not give up on a lot of places. Do you think that the Republican Party is going to break up between the nationalists and conservatives, and with the old school conservatives join in a new/old Democratic Party? That is a possibility. I would actually. I've always said I think it would be better if we had more than two major parties. So if the Republicans split, that would be very interesting, and to see some of them absorb into the old Democratic Party, like Bill Kristol and other people, not the actor, but the political figure. Yeah, I mean, seeing people like Rick Santorum and well, no, not really, that's a bad example. Seeing moderate Republicans or centrist Republicans like Rob Portman and Susan Collins join the party with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would be interesting. And then that would pave the way for a left-wing party to actually gain some traction. We may talk about that in a minute, the merits of a left-wing third-party movement. White elephant. I'm a nationalist in the sense that I'm proud of America. Did it work?
I hope so.
Is it? Can you tell if it's charging? Still on air.
Yes, it's charging.
Awesome.
Yay. I was going to sit over here.
Oh, okay. I'm a nationalist in the sense that I'm proud of America for ending slavery. Well, of course, that's good. And that's why Lincoln is still the best president, I think. And FDR. Yeah. Even though he did Japanese internment, I mean, that's not, every president has their bad marks. And that was something that was so shameful, never should have happened. And he also didn't do much anything about segregation. So that's a mark against him. So he's, again, out of, if U.S. presidents are considered to be automatically like not perfect people, then yes, FDR was a great president because the New Deal largely worked. Thank you. I'm proud of the home country of MLK and other leaders that walked on the moon. No, I mean, America has done great things. I mean, I think that us existing has had positive consequences because, like, I do wonder, like, I think we're the center of innovation, or we were. We're not the center of innovation anymore. I mean, Asia is the center of innovation, I think, in the modern world. But like for most of the 20th century, we were the center of innovation. And I generally take the view that a country that's more technologically advanced will have an easier time taking care of the problems that they face. And so I'm glad that America has been so innovative.
Like I said, you can be proud of your country. It's not this. You can't not it's not perfect.
Yeah, I think that among first world country, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it's not better to live here than like Qatar, because living in Qatar would be way worse than living in the United States of America, especially if you're a woman. Really, a lot of places in the Middle East. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, we like our country. We just criticize it. You mentioned that you thought the Republican Party would become libertarian. I wish it did. I wish it evolved into the Tea Party. I'm proud of Trump and think that I would have voted for him anyway. I mean, Trump has been doing well with his base. I mean, he's been very successful in garnering support among Republicans. And again, enough independents to make it matter. So, but I do wish that the Republican Party would be more libertarian, because I can like entertain libertarian ideas more easily than really where I think they went wrong was with Reagan, especially in economic policy, because supply side economics has been an absolute taint on our country. It really has. I guess I'm an extreme patriot. Hey, it's fine to be really patriotic. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's a difference between like out and out nationalism and just strong patriotism, because I don't want this country to fail, and neither do you. Obviously, none of us want this country to fail.
We want the best for everyone.
We want the best for everyone. If you were president, would you pardon Edward Snowden? I think I would. I would 100% pardon Edward Snowden, because he shed light on illegal activities, anti or unconstitutional activities that our government was perpetrating. Yeah, that's pretty patriotic to do something like that.
Your country enough to be exiled for it.
Exactly. And all these, it's so sad that the amount of Democrats who don't like Edward Snowden because he had courage,
Right.
If you were okay, I read that already. What if Trump had not left the Democratic Party in the 80s? Man, Trump has switched parties several times. He generally, somebody tracked it, he usually joins the opposition party to whatever party has the White House.
Seriously?
Yeah, so
I'm not surprised.
So when Obama was a Democrat, elected as a Democrat, Trump subsequently became a Republican. Love Lincoln, hate FDR. This is from White Elephant. Listen, man. It said hate putting Japanese into camps and for excluding African Americans from the New Deal. I already went over that.
Absolutely.
And sorry if I'm, taking a while to get these chat questions. There was a lot tonight. Thank you very much. No. And again, he was racist.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, if we judge, he's one of the least worst presidents on the scale of like really, really, really bad to not as bad, especially in economic policy. And African Americans being excluded from the New Deal was a very real thing. But the New Deal in and of itself, again, I believe it largely worked, and I think it would have worked better if he'd done deficit spending, which is also not something that fiscal conservatives don't like deficit spending because they're fiscal conservatives. They are against it. They're in favor of reducing the deficit. But in times of recession, I think it's necessary to increase the debt. Again, I know this may be like a wild, thing to say to some people, but I think that countries generally, I don't think, increasing the debt in and of itself, contrary to what our economics teachers in school would have us believe, for example, increasing the debt in a vacuum is not automatically bad because it means that you're investing in your people. I just did this, look, in your people. I wish we had the absolute perfect balance of being technologically advanced and being agrarian. Hey, man, I think that the Rust Belt may be, if the Democratic Party or if the country plays its cards right, the Rust Belt could become the next Silicon Valley, realistically, because I think Ro Khanna is a Democratic representative from California who is a big Bernie Sanders surrogate. He is in, was on some news show a while back talking about this program that he's co-sponsoring to get tech jobs in places like Iowa. That's genius, I think. Because you got to do something about the absolute, death knell of jobs in that region.
Okay, hang on, one question. Are you watching on that computer?
Am I watching the Twitch stream?
Yeah. Do it open?
Yes.
You do?
Okay.
Because I'm switching games.
That's fine.
So.
You've had 28 views.
That is not right.
Although that may be total channel views.
It's probably total channel. That's probably not from tonight.
Trump donated money to Hillary in 2008. I'm sure he did. He's a big, like, Donald Trump is an actor to me. Donald Trump is
I can't switch games yet.
Donald Trump is an actor. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's such an. I mean, he's literally like playing a role. Has been his entire life. In some ways, it's kind of funny to watch. In other ways, not so much. But yeah, I mean, of course he was really close with Bill and Hillary when Bill was in office and afterwards. He was a Democrat in the early 2000s. I'm so glad we agree on pardoning Edward Snowden. Yeah, man, I mean, I don't think he did anything wrong. What is holding the Trump administration back from doing so? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm curious what the popularity of pardoning Edward Snowden is among his base. But besides that, I think the main reason he may not be doing it is because they're, like idiot neocons in his administration that don't like Edward Snowden. That would be my guess. Springtime, have you looked into the First and Second Congo War? It is considered one of the worst wars in modern history, but it was underreported in the news in the 90s. I'm glad you bring that up. I actually was reading today about how, if we were being, technical, almost all of the post-World War II presidents have committed war crimes under the Nuremberg Acts, including Jimmy Carter, by the way. Of course, he was in the 70s, but the Congo War. I mean, I don't know much about it myself, and it's probably because of what you mentioned that it's underreported. I mean, unfortunately, things like that go on in the third world that don't involve us as much, tend to go underreported. I mean, right now, Egypt and Ethiopia are on the brink of war, for reasons that may or may not, or they're being overshadowed by COVID-19. India and Pakistan for years have been getting closer and closer to, nuclear warfare, which is not good. Yeah. So, and that's something that could also be included in an analysis of the eugenics wars in the Star Trek timeline, if we go by the Greg Cox kind of model of secret history, or the eugenics wars manifesting publicly in things like the Bosnia Kosovo wars or whatever in the 90s, and other conflicts in the Eastern Hemisphere. The founder of WikiLeaks is now pretty popular with Trump supporters in the Republican Party, as far as I can tell. Is that Julian Assange? Yeah, I also think he did not do anything wrong.
Wasn't that the blonde guy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
WikiLeaks helped inform the public of the way that the Democratic National Committee was, their tremendous bias against Bernie Sanders in 2016. I mean, they made tactical decisions to undermine his candidacy. So when people say that the primary was rigged, even if you think rigged is a strong word, which it may be, but it may not be, because I do think they tipped the scales. I think they interfered at the very least, and they may have interfered again. Who knows? I think FDR is on the bottom of the presidential ranking. Okay, well, again, we just hard disagree with that. No, I mean, in the New Deal type policies, coupled with deficit spending, I think are the best ways to get out of a recession. Does it increase the debt? Yeah, but again, like I said, that in a vacuum is not necessarily bad. I wish we could get rid of Social Security. Oh, God, no. Hard disagree on that. I mean, do you... we have Social Security so seniors don't get impoverished. I mean, my God, getting rid of Social Security is one of the last things that we should do. I think we should expand Social Security. I think the benefit should be bigger. I think if I'm being bold, I mean, one way to have a universal basic income is universal Social Security. Now, that may be too radical for the present. And it would be very expensive. Don't get me wrong, but like, no, we should not cut Social Security. Now, again, there have been proposals for years to privatize it, which that may be what you mean, but I don't think we should do that either. And that's what like Roth IRAs and other retirement accounts are for. I just think that undermines, I mean, you know, the social safety net. And for what about people who can't afford to retire comfortably? That's why we have Social Security. It's literally security for people who need it. But I think it being a universal program is good because then everybody has a vested interest in paying for it. And so they get the benefits, even the rich. Yes, I think the rich deserve to benefit from social programs because if they pay for them, you know, they shouldn't be excluded because, you know, they should be like, it's an inclusive society is what I'm going for. Why didn't Obama pardon Edward Snowden? I think he was maybe not trying not to piss off the right people.
There would have been too much opposition.
Yeah, he still should have done it, obviously, but like he didn't do it because I think he feared backlash potentially.
Exactly.
Do you think Trump could have become president as a member of the Democratic Party? Perhaps. I mean, you know, if the Democratic Party had, I think he would fit. I think he's pretty, you know, neoliberal in his policies, other than like, you know, the stimulus bill. But like, you know, he's pro austerity. He's pro, you know, the Democrats are not that great on taxes, in my opinion. Other than like, I mean, I don't think they believe in raising them as high as they should be. So most Democratic politicians. So yeah, he could have. And, you know, a lot of Democrats are also, you know, could have his immigration message, if toned down, could have fit in with Democratic voters, not like, you know, the base, but like fringes of the Democratic Party. Egypt is afraid of water shortages because of a dam that is being built in Sudan or Ethiopia, and it could start a war. Yeah, thank you, Springtime, for filling us in on the situations going on there. A good truce slogan for the United States should be America for everyone. Yeah, I think everybody should enjoy the benefits of our rich society. That doesn't mean everybody needs a mansion, but we could like end homelessness if we wanted to.
Oh, easily.
I mean, homelessness is something that we could, you know, get rid of in like a year, if not less. Maybe that's optimistic, but like, you know, just build houses for people and put them in it for free. I said it, you know. Yeah, blah blah blah. You know, landlords in the market. I don't give a fuck about the housing market. Landlords are greedy. You know, we should have free housing for people who need it. And again, not a mansion, but just base level. We could end homelessness, and hunger. We could end poverty. You know, it would just take a lot, but we could do it if we wanted to. Do you wish that Bin Laden's body was preserved and kept as a trophy?
No.
I don't care about that. I mean, you know, I'm glad that he's not in this world anymore, but that'd be kind of gratuitous.
He's not an animal.
No, he's not.
He was horrible.
He's not. No, that's kind of fetishistic to, you know, say something like that. Again, I'm, you know, I know it's just a question, but like, it's weird. No, I don't think so.
Maybe like,
or like,
not as a trophy.
Not as a trophy. Yeah, that's kind of a buzzword, you know. But anyway, Teddy Roosevelt's big stick policy. Obama didn't even see Bin Laden's body. Well, I mean, you know, he was halfway across the world when, I know they had a video feed, but like, you know,
they
dumped him in the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm glad he's dead. I think Social Security is more like social insecurity. No. Woo, but okay. Yeah. I think, again, everything that I said, I believe, I think we should have it because otherwise we would have impoverished seniors. Obama probably hates Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. This is from Springtime. You may be right. He may actually not like Edward Snowden or Julian Assange because it was the NSA spying programs, surveillance programs under his presidency that Snowden exposed. So
Right.
I wonder. I mean, I think he pardoned Chelsea Manning, which was good. My nighttime cookie.
Chewing on it.
Sorry.
Ugh.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on why Obama didn't pardon Snowden. I think he wanted to, because a week before Trump was inaugurated, Obama pardoned one of the people that worked with Snowden. I don't know. Again, he may have genuinely not liked Snowden, or he may have wanted to pardon him but feared backlash.
Right.
He should have done it, man. I mean, come on. Your legacy in the long run would have been better if you did. People would have viewed you positively.
Right.
And Obama cares about his legacy, I think. I think he does.
I mean, why wouldn't he?
Exactly. So, I think he could have done a lot of things better as president. A lot of things. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of things. I almost forgot, here in Anchorage, we have a First City run homeless camp, shelter, and unused sports area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. He did say she may be going back to prison. This is in reference to Chelsea Manning, I take it. Yeah, Chelsea Manning, bless her heart, she's been in and out of federal prison off and on multiple times, and she's tried to commit suicide twice. I mean, Jesus Christ, just let her be. Just let her free. And she exposed some war crimes that the U.S. was committing in the Middle East. She was a whistleblower about some of these operations. Like, I don't remember all the details, but she's another whistleblower who deserves respect. Yeah, and I finally caught up with the chats. Now that we're already an hour and 36 minutes in, let me post the link to this on Patreon. Patreon.com/Anim8orkid if you want to support us. April 5th, 2020. Anim8orkid. Oh yeah, Sarah is simulcasting Red Dead Redemption 2 on Twitch if you want to go over there real quick and simulcast that, or watch both of these streams. We don't need roads where we're going. Is that Doc Brown? Oh my God. I just remembered Doc Brown made me think of Rick and Morty. I'm so glad that's coming back. We need Rick and Morty right now. We need Rick and Morty so bad. Oh yeah. I did want to talk about Picard here in a second. Just briefly. Again, we have a full-fledged, in-depth review of the whole season coming out on Tuesday. So you can go watch that and get our thoughts. Again, we didn't hold back, but we did like it. So don't think we didn't like it. It's just it's a show, we can criticize it, and we did. So I am curious to see what other people's thoughts were on it. This is public, so I'll make that public. Fun fact, we used U.S. Air Force transport aircraft to move weapons and equipment to U.S. Allied forces in the First and Second Congo War. Interesting. So I figured we had to have had some sort of involvement in that. I'm just checking real quick on some social media activity with Stream. Anybody new that's coming in, ask us anything. This is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything about YouTube, the channel, movies and TV, what have you. Politics, COVID-19. I mean, that's half of what we've been talking about, which is fine because, I mean, it is a global pandemic. You can't not talk about it, and it is directly affecting our lives. I mean, we are, the recession is oncoming if it's not already here.
It's not already here.
Well, I mean, we won't know until get out of it, maybe. Or I say that. We won't know if we're in a technical recession unless we have 2 back-to-back quarters of, declined economic activity or negative growth. It's certainly happening right now, and I think that this will be classified as a recession because, we're approaching 30% unemployment levels. I mean, that's Great Depression level unemployment. It's bad. We alerted the invading Rwanda and Uganda troops to the locations of UN monitoring and refugee camps. Yeah, the U.S. shadow activities, as I like to call them, in Africa and the Middle East are certainly worthy of more discussion because, from a historical standpoint, because you're right, they are certainly worthy of more discussion because, from a historical standpoint, because you're right, they are not nearly enough. I've heard of the Congo War, but not nearly enough people know anything about it. I mean, people know that we, invaded the nation state of Grenada, even though they didn't attack us in 1983. Some people who are older will remember the Sandinistas and Contras in Nicaragua, but I mean, how many people today know what that is? The Contras and rebels in Nicaragua. I mean, that was so serious, and it devastated the lives of, thousands, if not millions, of South Americans. And it was all because, we were trying to defeat the Soviets. We trained them in good PR, no joke. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. Cassidy said she cried at Onward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it because it does look interesting. Let me respond to this real quick.
Oh no. Someone's got explosive rounds.
Oh man.
Oh my god. Yeah, there it is.
I cried at Onward. Yeah, this is Why Elephant. Yeah, man. I mean, we're in for Pixar is really good at making films that tug at your heartstrings. I mean, just out of curiosity, I guess I'll conduct a little poll. This is from Springtime, and we're members of the British Empire. Yeah, that's true. The British Empire is literally one of the deadliest civilizations to ever exist in human history.
It's insane.
I mean, so much death and destruction caused by the British Empire. I think Bernie would do better if he criticized China at the last debate and didn't praise Cuba. Well, I think
you're partly right.
Partly right. I mean, context matters because the Cuba thing I'll address first. I mean, that was I didn't watch the last debate, so I'm not sure what he said recently. But I mean, any country right now that is containing coronavirus deserves attention, and we should look at what they're doing, no matter what their government system is. But when he praised Cuba, he wasn't praising their, authoritarian social systems or whatever. He was praising the fact that Castro had established universal literacy and universal health care. Again, that's, it's worthy of doing because like universal literacy is good. And yes, you know, people said, well, you know, they were reading propaganda, but I mean, universal literacy is good.
I'm not doing shit to you.
Universal literacy is good. So and Obama did the same thing. Obama, you know, praised Castro's health, social or not social, but like health and literacy programs in Cuba. As far as China, you know, again, I don't remember specifically what he said, but I mean, any country that's containing the virus deserves attention. I do agree, though, that Bernie has hurt himself calling himself a democratic socialist. I think most people understand that he should not have done that because he's not. He's a social democrat. There is a functional difference. Democratic socialists reject capitalism. Social democrats do not. Bernie does not reject capitalism. He wants to reform it. He doesn't want to get rid of it. So, I mean, that's an oversimplification kind of, but like he did himself a disservice. He should have never said that. He should have called himself a New Deal Democrat or a New Deal progressive, New Deal liberal. I mean, he is liberal compared to European leftists. I mean, you know, people in Europe will understand what I'm saying.
What?
I'm just responding to Cassidy. But yeah. I don't cry at movies either, but Onward was the last feather on my back. Well, we're ready. We're ready for it. I mean, we do want to watch it, so I think we're in for a good time.
Oh my fucking fuck you, app. Sorry.
Twitch.tv/LRedsky. The Portuguese were crazily trying to keep their empire from falling in the 60s and 70s and just making more problems for everyone. Hey, that's not surprising. I mean, the Portuguese. It's interesting just knowing that colonialism still existed late into the 20th century. You know, that all these empires, the Portuguese, the British, the French, that they were holding on and trying to deal with the fallout, especially in all these countries gaining independence, like in Africa. That's really interesting. I mean, you know, I'm not an expert at U.S. history, but I'm hyper aware of a lot of elements of U.S. history. I need to be more well read of ancient history and world history because there is a lot, you know, of insight into that kind of stuff. Yeah. So Star Trek Picard, yeah, we liked it, but we felt it had a lot of problems. I won't get into specifics too much. Just watch our review. Yeah. In the end, the COVID-19 outbreak has changed the 2020 election beyond what anybody could have predicted.
What
yeah.
The hell?
Twitch.tv/LRedsky.
I hate this game. That's not true.
The people
who play this drive me crazy.
Yeah. Any you know, RPG like that. Or just
online play.
Online play, yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm too ahead, so.
I feel like I know U.S. history well, but not world or ancient history too well. I think a lot of people, because you know our educational system only will give us so much information when we're you know learning these things. I mean, you know, world history was like, you know, a middle school kind of, you know, and I was taught U.S. and world history in middle school, but I think only U.S. history in high school, and in college I elected to take world history as, you know, to get my credits, but like it was such an overview. And in fact, I took World Civilizations 1, which was like ancient Egypt and stuff. And that was interesting. World Civ 2, I did not do. I did that, but I waited a semester. But we actually talked a lot about the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery, the Enlightenment, and then, you know, slavery, and then, you know, World War I, World War II, the Cold War. So that was really cool. I like that class. But yeah, I mean, especially ancient world history, it's not necessarily something you have to know in your everyday life. I do think that U.S. history is something that should remain mandatory. and should be increased the amount that we're taught. And in general world history, I think it's good to like know about things that have happened, major world events, because it informs your perception of reality, you know, in a very profound way. So that is as much world and ancient history as I know. Yeah. Or just from school, right? You know, so took art history, White Elephant says. That's cool. I took art classes. I didn't really take art history, but I took art classes, but that's really neat. I think I've gained more of an appreciation for art history because I'm, you know, more aware of like the kind of cultural and political influences behind the different eras of art. So I should dive into that as well. So that's really neat. We decided to get involved in a civil war in Angola because we lost the Vietnam War and supplied some interested people weapons and got South African military involved. This is from Springtime. Yeah, I forgot about Angola too. I think a lot of people, because I was reading, you know, I've read, you know, people's opinions about if we had not gotten involved in Vietnam, and some people have said that Angola may have been the next big target because we did get involved there, or the Congo Wars, but like, man, or Afghanistan. Jeez, that would have been brutal. Okay, we have a willy weird something going on in the chat. Look at that. You'll know what I'm talking about. The Ted Bundy comment.
That's cool. Let's kind of stay on stuff. I mean,
yeah, let's stay on top of that. U.S. history is entertaining, so I like looking at it in my free time. I do too. I've become more familiar with U.S. history. I mean, obviously, I took it in school, and I was aware of a lot of things, but I know a lot of quick facts and stuff off the top of my head because of all the research I had to pour over for my Fringe timeline and the Fringe videos that I've made and my documentaries and everything. And in my free time, I've learned more. I mean, I could probably name all of the presidents in order. I'm not going to right now because I'm tired, but I could do it. And I know generally, like the history of the political parties and the general world events and U.S. history. I'm not as well read on the Revolutionary era as I am on the mid to late 19th century, and then obviously the 20th and 21st centuries. But like, it's neat, and I do like looking at my free time because there's always something new to learn, and you also get a lot of insight into how much history repeats itself. Cough, cough. Gilded Age. What? Because we didn't want to send U.S. troops to Angola. Yeah, that is true. So I don't know. Like I said, we need to be taught more about our interventions abroad. I would like to look at art history more since that was a lot of fun. Yeah, me too. I'd like to do that too because I feel like I passed up a chance to do that when I was in school. So now that I'm out of school, it's a perfect time. The Armchair Historian has some good videos on world history for people who don't have a lot of time. Thanks for the recommendation. I may check that out because I'm always looking for good sources to fill in those gaps. So I may check that out. Armchair Historian. That name is very familiar. I feel like stuff from him has popped up every now and then. White Elephant. My grandpa served in Vietnam, and he didn't support it to begin with since he was drafted, but he was disappointed that the U.S. left since the enemy took over the capital 2 weeks after he left. Yeah, I've had family that served in Vietnam as well. And yeah, I mean, I do on aggregate, I think it was a mistake. I think we shouldn't have done it. And I think that it was always going to be, a hard war to win because there was just so much support that that North Vietnam and the Communist Party and the, communist faction of South Vietnam were getting from China and North Korea and the Soviet Union. And, and then when Laos and Cambodia fell as well to communism, it was always going to be an uphill battle, which is ironic given that on paper we should have had the upper hand because we were fighting against, rice farmers. I mean, quite literally. But, there was way too much death and destruction, I think, for it to have been justified.
Yeah.
And, I need to learn more about the Korean War, too, because that's what MASH was based on, is the Korean War. But also that it helped inform policy decisions later on and influenced the 1952 presidential election, believe it or not. Instead of Aruba, it should have been the Angolan War, just saying. Was that a reference to Fringe? Should have been. Yeah, I mean, I would have taken that. Without Vietnam War, U.S. war in Angola is possible. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the U.S. was looking for enemy that was being aided by the Soviets, so to speak, to fight against. I mean, it was the Cold War. Vietnam was a proxy war, so that is true. Somebody should do a timeline about that. White Elephant. I finally know what I was referring to when we were talking earlier about nationalism, patriotism. American exceptionalist, not nationalist. Well, yeah, I mean, there's also functional difference between those as well. I think American exceptionalism is also, I mean, we don't really subscribe to that either because I think that, to me, American exceptionalism, just the connotation that I'm familiar with, is used as a shield for a lot of people to defend things that America has done that I don't like. Like our foreign policy, for example, just how much we're involved in all these wars and everything, that people think we're automatically righteous because we're America, when in fact, oftentimes we are viewed as, satanic forces in some of these countries because, we do commit war crimes. We do commit genocide. Oh, genocide's a strong word, but I mean, we aid in genocides. We do. I mean, we were aiding Saudi Arabia in the genocide against Yemen until, fortunately, the Senate, led by Bernie Sanders, by the way, voted to end support for Saudi Arabia. Now, I think Trump subsequently vetoed that because, of course, he did. But yeah, so American exceptionalism is also something that we don't subscribe to in particular, just because it comes with a set of certain beliefs that we don't align with. But again, nothing wrong with being very patriotic at all. Definitely not. It wasn't so much that North Vietnam was pro-communist. It was far more that they were pro-United Vietnam after the French and Japanese occupation. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I looked at all of the, history of that, because I did do a lot of research about that for my Fringe timeline. So I guess I'm a little hazy on the details. Thanks for the clarification. But yeah, they did want a united Vietnam, and South Vietnam wanted independence. And so we were fighting for an independence battle that was just very, much an underdog race. And in the long run, they lost, So, and then the forces that were allied with, or on, that were getting resupplied by China, the PRC did end up winning. So North Vietnam did end up winning. We almost went to war with North Korea in '94 over the nuclear program. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I know in the 21st century, there's been a lot of talk about responding to North Korea's nuclear tests. I'm glad that we haven't. And, that's one thing. Again, Donald Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un, a lot of negative consequences that came out of that, because I think that he was way too friendly with him and like, calling them buddies, and that's just gross. But like, at the very least, I think it's good that, again, good thing that came out of that was the fact that there was not an escalation of war, because my God, I mean, that would have been awful. So again, North Korea having a nuclear program, I don't like it, obviously, but like, what are we going to do about it? Invade them? Please. I mean, we don't need to be doing that. We should let them, we should just not pressure them and not provoke them, for one thing. I don't have all the answers. I don't think I've ever claimed to, but I mean, just let them they're not. Just let them be, okay, and don't provoke them.
Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
What are you talking about?
North Korea.
North Korea.
White Elephant. I think my American exceptionalism comes from my religion. It's not talked about a lot nowadays in our church since it's global. My church believes that we, America, is a blessed land and only the righteous can live on it and the wicked will be destroyed. Our church wants America to be good so we can preserve the rights we have, or we will be destroyed. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, America, I think that America, even if we don't necessarily believe that it has been blessed by God, I think that America has done a lot of very special things. And that's why I think we do have a vested interest in making sure that the country doesn't collapse. I mean, I really think, because some people have been, talking about like breaking the U.S. up into multiple countries. I think that's a stupid idea. I really do. I mean, because yes, like California could survive on its own, but I mean, imagine, if you will, for a second that the South seceded again. I mean, that didn't work out last time. I don't think we should do that again. I think we should try to keep the Union together. It's weird that we're talking about something like that again. Not as immediate of a problem, but anyway. Springtime. We sent U.S. Air Force to Saudi Arabia in the 1960s because of the first Yemeni Civil War. Yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia, for a long time, we've had de facto military alliance with them. And I think it's caused a lot more harm than good, in my opinion, because, I just don't think that Saudi Arabia is a worthy state of having like a very strong allyship with. They are so brutal against their own people. It's not even, it's so bad. Obama said North Korea was his biggest problem. Yeah, I mean, North Korea, there's something that has to be done about them, and their nuclear program should be limited, I think, but like, again, I just don't think they should be provoked into war. And thankfully, that's not something that came out of the Trump interaction. Springtime, we see what happens when we make arbitrary borders. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think we need to break up the country, because I think there are some region or states. Oh yes, region, but there's some states whose economies would 100% collapse if they did not receive federal funding from other states. And so I think it's a vested interest for them to stay in the Union. I think the South seceding would be an absolute disaster, if for nothing else. And I mean, if they were left to their own devices, just imagine how minorities would be treated again, if they didn't have to abide by the Civil Rights Act, I mean, that's a federal thing. And so, yeah. Springtime. I've talked about my beliefs before with Anim8orkid. And of course, Springtime also says, know what you mean, Church of Latter-day Saints. Yeah, I mean, America is a very unique country, and it's definitely has a lot of potential still. I think we just have to have some sort of a course correction. So everyone in the Middle East and North Africa were and are involved in the Yemeni civil wars from the 60s to today. Yeah, I mean, it's been a big thing, and had a lot of connections as well to the Cold War. So you're absolutely right. It has been ongoing for years, and it's something that we should be dealing with in a lot more of a serious way than we are right now. For example, not harming Saudi Arabia, who is terrorizing them. Yeah. Well, we have been live for over 2 hours. We have 5 viewers so far. Well, I say so far. We have 5 simultaneous viewers right now. Anybody new to the chat, is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything, and we'll try to answer it. I do think we will probably wind down here in a bit, because it's getting a little late. But it's been really fun. So we'll stay on stream for a little while. Sarah is still casting on Twitch, so can stay there. I'm gonna lean back. I've been better about not bumping the table this time.
It's the things facing the
The thing's facing a different direction. Keep the stream unless you're tired. I'll do it.
So the
White elephant. No, man, we're going. I mean, we got a lot of activity going on. I'm not stopping just yet. I think that in a little bit, perhaps it is after 11, but in a little bit we may end this. Maybe before midnight, because otherwise it would be 3 hours long. But we'll see. Who knows? We don't have anything else to do. Come on, except for watch Onward. We may do that tonight. Springtime. The industrial and commercial interests would probably side with whichever faction was neutral and powerful. So, fun time to make new maps. That is another issue. I mean, this country, more so than really any other first world country, is bought and paid for by rich and corporations. I mean, we are unique among first world countries in how lax our campaign finance laws are. So companies and billionaires can buy elections, buy politicians. We're unique in that we don't have a lot of things like paid leave and universal health care. I mean, that's why I think Bernie was not that radical. I don't think he was radical at all. I think he was fairly moderate compared to, again, the international left. He's very much a international centrist, maybe center left, in that he obviously leans more left than right, on an international scale. But the things he was proposing were very basic among first world nations. Canada has universal health care. Australia has universal health care. The UK has universal health care. Now, their system, there's things to criticize about them, but it's better than what we have now, where we let thousands of people die because they don't have insurance. I mean, that's criminal. That's awful. And thank God our families, we're, Sarah and I are in our early 20s. And so eventually we're going to have to get employer-based insurance. That's going to be fun. But thankfully our families are fortunate enough to have, insurance that will kind of cover. But I mean, our insurance companies still suck. I mean, I'm not naming names, but they only cover so much, and then we're left with the rest to do out of pocket. I mean, imagine how many poor families would be helped if we had Medicare for all, and it's not radical. So California and the South would probably have to build their economy from scratch, something that hasn't worked very well in the past. Yeah, I mean, again, and I was referencing earlier, red states. Well, it's not even really red states. It's small states that receive federal funding, like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming. I'm very skeptical as their ability to survive without federal tax dollars. That's why we are a union of states. Springtime. Okay, they're talking about general conference for is that in reference to LDS, East and West Berlin and such. If you get tired, drink 50 Code Reds. Is that an energy drink?
I think so.
I've never had an energy drink, believe it or not. I know that sounds wacky, but I haven't. I've pulled a lot of all-nighters before, no, I've pulled a few all-nighters, but I've survived them. I do drink soft drinks, and that's not that good anyway, but nevertheless. Yeah, I think so. White elephant. If you get tired, I just read that. I am getting tired, I guess. Mike Bloomberg proved you can't buy an election. Not true. He did lose. I mean, he didn't win any state. Well, he won American Samoa. He probably bought that election, but it's easy to buy the American Samoa primary. Here, got a cat toy I'm going to throw. Meek, here. billionaires and corporations buy elections all the time. Well, in particular, they buy politicians. It's so easy to do. I mean, because it's bribery, because they will, bribe politicians, because our campaign finance laws are so lax. They will buy politicians effectively to. It's basically what lobbying is. They will buy influence in government to get legislation passed that benefits them and screws over the people. It's one of the main reasons that Congress can pass bills that have such low support among the American people. They're not representing the American people. They're representing the rich and corporations. I think Wyoming could survive. They still got a lot of natural resources. That's true. I mean, each state does have local resources in their economy that they could use to survive. Although I just think that it's like, it would be a bad experiment to run, if we tried it. Because, again, I bring up the South. The South is a problem area because, we like our state governments here in the South have been some of the worst in responding to the coronavirus. I mean, it's like abysmal. Mississippi was just south of us, like 10 minutes south of us, has been one of the last states. And of course, Tennessee, also where we live, one of the last states, recently to introduce shelter in place. They should have done it weeks ago. So, the South sucks. I mean, it really does. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about the South. But I mean, if left to our own devices, we would just turn into a shithole. Even more so than, the shitholes that exist here are now. As of late, it's getting harder to sleep after the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, it is something that would keep you up at night. I mean, we have family members that are in public health and in the medical field. And so, not necessarily ones that interact directly with COVID patients, but still that alone is a concern, just because people that they know and they work with are, I presume. And so it's it's impacting all of us directly. White Elephant. I love how I corrupted this channel's live streams. It used to be about movies and games. Then it fell down a rabbit hole that led me to you guys. Now we're all political. Hey, we don't mind, man. I mean, I would like some more questions about just in general. Maybe not, and we don't have to steer the subject hard away from where it is now. But I would like more movie and TV questions. But I don't mind talking about politics. It's fun. It's so fun. In Alaska, we're calling it a hunker down. That's fun. I mean, it's scary, but that's quaint. No, I mean, in Tennessee, we're calling it "Hope We Don't Die." That's dark. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
But I mean, hopefully, hopefully we won't die. I think that if we take necessary precautions, I am worried about hospitals getting overloaded, and I am so worried about poor people dying I say that thankfully, I think the administration is moving in a direction that will allow Medicare to cover costs associated with coronavirus, which is good. Again, friggin' hypocrites, all these people arguing against, Medicare for all. And even though this isn't Medicare for all, obviously, it's no shit, using the federal health care or health insurance program to treat patients who are dying is good. We should do that year round. That's not a wild idea, I think. Blueberries? I would love some blueberries.
Do you want me to get your walnuts upstairs?
Yes, please. Springtime and White Elephant are having a lively conversation about Church of Latter-day Saints' latest announcements. The new Shanghai temple. That is really interesting. I mean, I think that I have to admire the Mormon. We talked about Book of Mormon, right? We talked about Book of Mormon on the stream months ago. No, I mean I'm glad that you guys are getting as much out of this that's going on. I'm really happy for you guys. The cat is playing with a ball of gum that has been
that's what this is.
Wrapped up. That came out of the dryer. I'm sure it's like vacuum sealed.
I thought it was just tinfoil.
Yeah. Ooh. Here, I'll be right back, guys. Here.
Do you need any water?
I think so.
Sorry, I didn't grab you with my nail.
This is springtime. As of late, a lot of people are having a hard time understanding their first time in a long time. Churches are closed in other places that were never thought we close every day. I mean,
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, there are church services that are. I mean, it's gotten to the point where I don't know where we heard about this, but like this pastor in Florida or something that was like had services still going on, and it was bringing people congregations in. They arrested him, and I'm like, good, because that's a public health crisis.
Yeah.
But I never thought it was going to get this bad. I never thought that it was going to be realistic that we, especially in Memphis, because Memphis, thankfully, we're not, I would say we're not as bad as New York, for example. We have fewer people, for one thing. But like, there's still hundreds of cases here in Shelby County, and it's growing. Now, new cases in Tennessee for now have kind of peaked because the governor issued a shelter-in-place order, but they could go back up. So that's the scary thing. I don't know what's going to happen over the next few months, but I never thought that we were going to I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the cat. I never thought that we were going to have months of disruption to daily life. Although I did read a few weeks ago, I read this article from like the Washington Post about how it was super realistic that America would have months long disruption to daily life. And we're in the middle of it now.
This is a terrible idea.
Don't hurt yourself.
I know. Where's your Snoopy roll?
It's probably by my computer.
Okay.
Yeah. New York is a crap hole. I mean, New York, they're doing the best they can. I think at this point, I think they need, more as much help as they can. But I mean, even New York, people are praising Andrew Cuomo for acting, and good on him for doing what he's been doing now. But I mean, he could have acted earlier too. It's in some ways, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But at the same time, like we should not have this many cases and deaths. We could have fewer cases and deaths if we took different steps early on. So, springtime. Is this in reference, I guess, to that pastor that got arrested? He was claiming his church was safe from COVID-19. Yeah, I mean, geez, like charlatans who will sell, dangerous ideas like that, you're safe from a public health crisis like that. I mean, that is not good. feel bad for New York since doctors and nurses are getting sick. Yeah, it's real scary, man. I mean, we're seeing periodically we'll see like social media posts that come out of New York from nurses that are talking about how basically what you said is going on, and they're just they are working as hard as they can. Sarah's mom is a nurse, and again, she doesn't interact directly with COVID patients. Her field is cardiac stuff, but like it's affecting the hospital where she works. Obviously, they're approaching full capacity if they're not already there now. I mean, Jesus, it's going to get worse. We're going to see overloaded hospitals in virtually every major metropolitan area in this country. I guarantee it, especially in the states that waited too long to act. Even New York, I think we will see overloaded hospitals. We can aid that, and that's why I'm glad that the car manufacturers are making ventilators. I mean, that's necessary. So we'll see. A lot of political leaders couldn't make the right choices since it's the new strands and the communist silence whistleblowers. I mean, yeah, China obviously did not help. And this is a new strain, but again, again, hindsight is 2020, but I am just saying, as a matter of fact, we could have done more early. I'm just saying we could have. But reality is deterministic, and hindsight's 2020, and we just need to get through it the best we can now. I do think there are a lot of governments that actively chose to not act when they should have, especially like some of these state governments here in the South and other areas. I mean, Wyoming issued a shelter-in-place order before Tennessee and Mississippi did. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think I am. I think I read that somewhere. But like, geez, they're not taking it seriously. The Mississippi governor said that he didn't think that a shelter in place was going to be necessary. Are you kidding me? Dude, this is literally a global pandemic of a virus that the global population at large does not have immunity to. Yes, shelter in place is necessary everywhere. Everywhere should be doing at least shelter in place. And there's this actually, if either of you, thank you, sweetheart. If there is any desire to look at more stats about this, because I think it's good to be informed, there's this website that YouTuber that I watch recommended called covidactnow.org. In fact, I may put a link to that in the chat. covidactnow.org, that has a map of the U.S. and may have world maps too, but it has a map of the U.S. at least, and state by state, you can go state by state and see the trend lines. It's like new cases, deaths, treated cases, as well as projections of hospital bed capacity, or how many hospital beds will be filled if each state took different precautions in a certain time period. So if you do nothing, then it's like no joke, like Black Death. If you do, no, we're not doing nothing, so we don't have to worry about that. If you do just 3 months of social distancing, you still have overloaded hospitals, because that's not going to help. If you do 3 months of shelter in place, that will help avoid overloaded hospitals. So we could be, I mean, we could avoid overloaded hospitals if we get lucky, but it's going to be real close. And then Wuhan style lockdown is the quickest way to stop the spread of virus. But I mean, shelter in place is appropriate, I think. White Elephant. Is this, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm catching up on the chat. I don't know what your religious affiliation is, but today our church also announced that we want to do a worldwide fast on Good Friday, and all people, no matter what affiliation, they're invited to fast. Well, thank you for the invitation. I don't know if I could fast on Good Friday. I've known people who do fast for religious purposes. I had a Muslim friend in middle school who fasted ahead of Ramadan, and so it's not unprecedented. But I should diet, maybe not diet, but like cut back a little bit. But thank you. Even if you're not religious, I thought I would share it because someone in the audience might be religious and interested in that. Thank you for sharing that, White Elephant. Because you're right, somebody may be interested in doing that. I don't know, Sarah, your family is Catholic. What's their practices on like Good Friday and Easter
on
weekend?
Fridays, I think it's fasting.
Fasting. So, like, you think your mom and sister may do that?
Maybe. I know they don't eat meat, so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's still going on.
The Queen of England spoke to her subjects for only the third time in history. Unprecedented time, that's what I'm saying. Earlier, we were talking about the economic impact. That started too because for every one person that gets COVID-19, 100 people will lose their job, which is crazy, but true stat. Yeah, I mean, I know there's like different numbers about the economic impact from different sources, but like, I believe that. I mean, why not? Because, like I said, approaching 30% unemployment. Again, literally Great Depression levels. Now, it was kind of different back then because that was the male unemployment rate was like 25%. So the female unemployment rate was like, above 60%, I'm sure, which is not true today because we have a more, gender equal workforce, but like, or comparatively speaking to them, but on paper, we're approaching Great Depression levels. So that in and of itself is scary. My cousin and her husband that work full time are drawing unemployment. I haven't done so. I would be eligible because gig workers are included in that. Although I just, I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't felt compelled to do so, but I have seriously thought about drawing unemployment. I've given it way more thought now than I ever have had a reason to. So now we can't have soup lines and such. Man, the grocery store.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store is like a big undertaking at this point. You have to be careful. You have to be so careful. I mean, I think it would be good to practice some form of social distancing for the rest of the year.
Probably.
I'm not kidding. I think that it would be good to practice forms of social distancing off and on just forever, maybe at this point, because that's kind of a loaded statement, but what I mean is this virus is causing fundamental changes to society right now before our eyes. Online learning is becoming way more normalized. Like I never would have in a million years imagined elementary and middle school kids switching to online learning for any reason, like for a few decades at least. I mean,
oh my god!
But
oh my god.
It's reality. White Elephant. I know people hate it when Trump says the cure might be worse than the actual problem, and I think he might be right, which is crazy. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how we come out of this. The economic impact alone, but also, like I said, the societal changes, online learning, virtual workplaces, social distancing, wearing masks in public, which a lot of Asian societies have been doing that for years, and they are the one. Now, I'm not saying it prevented them from succumbing to the virus, because clearly it didn't. But, I think practices like that are going to become more commonplace. Fun fact, this is unrelated. If you ever have any self-doubt or low self-esteem or anything, or think that you're dumb or whatever, I learned how to properly eat string cheese when I was 21 years old. It's completely random, but I always just bit into the stick and ate it full like that. So you've been doing something more correctly for your entire lifetime than I have. I'm sure of it. It's just a little, motivational. Movies are no longer in theaters and are not being shown on cable for just streaming. I'm so glad you brought that up. I really like, I like movie theaters. I like independent movie theaters. But we will be going to the movies less in the future than we did ever before, I think, because, and also, one good thing that could come out of this is the normalization of big, major movie releases coming to streaming, if not streaming first, then just streaming earlier. I think they should do that. I think movie studios.
Oh my god, what an asshole.
Twitch.tv/LLRedSky.
We're always being nice. Oh, what a fuck.
I think that movie studios should take a lesson about how a lot of consumers would, still pay good money to see new releases at home. Right? I mean, I guess it'll still be to be seen, but.
Oh my god. Fine.
White Elephant. I hope online schooling ends. I hate it. Well, you've transitioned to full online, Sarah, and so how is that for you?
Online school is overrated. Honestly, it's rough.
Yeah. I will say, personally, I prefer in-person, like in classroom learning myself, even though I'm a big proponent of technology and all that kind of stuff. Online learning is overrated, like you said, and not every teacher / professor knows how to properly run an online class, right? And it's isolates people. Like, if we, imagine like if we couldn't meet in a classroom, you wouldn't meet half of the friends that you have right now,
Right.
I would not have met. Well, of course, the film classes. A lot of film classes I take. I don't know how those would be done online. God, I can't imagine. But like, I wouldn't. If we were forced to not be able to come in on campus or whatever, I wouldn't have met. Like I said, half the people that I know now and are really good friends with. Get public. Humans are social animals, and so this is having a very negative psychological impact. Quarantine. We should do it for as long as necessary, but when it's not necessary, obviously you can relax those regulations. So, White Elephant, I miss my friends. I'm sorry. We do too.
Yeah.
We miss our friends too. You should get Snapchat. It's not the same, but if you don't have Snapchat, Snapchat helps us keep in touch, or even just texting or any social media, helps us keep in touch. You can see more new movies streaming than at the theater. That's true. Netflix. So how much longer can the theaters survive even post COVID-19? I don't know, man. I mean, independent theaters in particular are being hurt really badly. Now, thankfully, there's like crowdfunding efforts to keep independent theaters open and like prevent them from going under. You know, I have a love-hate relationship, I guess, with the movie theater industry because there is something special about going to the theater.
There is.
But at the same time, I mean, I am also a proponent of, you know, new releases coming to streaming services because I don't like people. I don't like going out and sitting amongst other people. I like going to the theater when it's not crowded.
Right.
You can get shot at the movie theater.
Yeah, that's a big.
You know,
that's the biggest turnoff.
Yeah, you can get shot anywhere. But like, you know, that's maybe crass, but it's true. I mean, fuck, you know. White Elephant, I just got Instagram. I thought I was an introvert until this happened. We're both still introverts. Because, I mean, we want to do things with our friends, but at the same time, we're also having fun playing video games and watching movies and TV. If there's a silver lining, more people are reaching out to people online than they would never think about talking to. That's true. And in fact, for example, like online services like Amazon and FedEx and Teespring, which is where my merch store is located, are doing big business right now. And international shipping is tricky right now. Side tangent. When are we going to get more Nintendo Switches in stock within 300 miles of where we live? I don't know about you guys, but like we cannot find any Switches on sale or just in stock. I mean, anywhere, any outlet. We need Switch. we need Switches. Oh God! Water just got everywhere. Shit! I need a paper towel.
There's nothing right there.
Yes.
Oh God! Damn it!
Oh, I'm sorry. I distracted you.
No, it's fine. I didn't realize the mission had started. No.
I'll throw this napkin away later. Yep. Just eating my string cheese on a Sunday night. Another thing. Some of our friends, and we're talking about this with us, we may come out of this quarantine thinner than we were before because we're not eating as much fried food from fast food restaurants. Mm-hmm. That's person to person, I guess. I've been cooking a lot more lately than I usually have. Like, at least once or twice a week. Sorry, there's such a big lull. And we're at 2 hours, 38 minutes. I don't know. What do you think? We'll probably wind down around midnight-ish, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Up to you.
Yeah. We're still getting some decent traffic. And I again, thank you guys so much for participating in the chat. Another shout out to Kinsey for that $5 super chat. That was really generous. Thank you very much. Oh, there goes a blueberry. So with COVID-19 outbreak, can we assume that these sanctuary districts being as emergency shelters for those affected by the pandemic? From Star Trek, I'm thinking so. That's, again, I think in the video that we're producing in the next few weeks, we will factor COVID-19 in, because homelessness, I think, will increase because of this, which is sad. But again, that's the situation that they find themselves in in the world of that episode, 2020's America. And so I think that the sanctuary districts could very well be a play. I mean, I think they would have been like probably in existence beforehand, but they would be like become more normalized with a COVID-19 outbreak. And like I said, the economic impacts would be something to consider as well. They mentioned that the federal government had stopped trying to find people jobs after the mass unemployment. That's right, they did. They absolutely did. I believe it was a reference to the Federal Employment Act of 1946 that had been repealed. Which, yeah, I mean, I'll have to do more research into specifically what that would entail. But again, you're absolutely right. I think that would be a factor as well. Thank you. So you're helping with our research tremendously, and we're going to incorporate a lot of this into the video. Kind of have to, because this is, like I said, a civilization transforming event that we're living through right now. Massively expanded after the outbreak, seems like. Yeah, as far as the sanctuary districts, I totally agree. And again, any economic recession would have probably led to such a thing occurring because of the mass unemployment and homelessness. And also people with criminal records being not allowed to live in the sanctuary districts. Sarah's still live on Twitch. Stwill, Red Dead Redemption 2. The police also seem more aggressive than even today. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think we're turning in that direction for sure. It's easy to see. It's easy to see a lot of this emerging from the situation that we are in today. It really is. So that's why I think I may include a lot of news footage in the video. Yeah. But let me run this by you real quick. So that's the next Star Trek video that we're doing. What is your opinion on? I'm thinking about maybe doing a video about how Starfleet ships, how like the different components that go into mechanical components that go into manufacturing the ships come from different Federation member worlds. So it's not just Earth, it's other civilizations and members of the Federation that have contributed kind of technological expertise to manufacture these starships. I'm just not sure how I'd title that video. That may be my next Star Trek video. Yeah, probably a economic crisis after the eugenics wars and other conflicts made worse by COVID-19. That's true. Phobia on Twitter retweeting regarding non-competitive games with breakable weapons / tools. Game designers just don't. Nice.
I understand that frustration.
Absolutely.
You want the rest of these?
I'll take a few.
Those are so small compared to the other ones.
I know. Here you go. Thank you. Wait, did you want some more? Yeah, I mean, some sort of economic crisis has to have happened because they reference the economy being down the shitter, so to speak, in the episode, even in 2024. And man, we could be, what we could be facing is a repeat of what's called stagflation. Now, stagflation, for those of you in the audience who may not be familiar with the term, is what we call a combination of high unemployment and high inflation. Now, inflation is not that high right now, so I don't think it would be as bad as it was in the 70s, but the 1970s decade in America was marked by stagflation. So high unemployment, high inflation, and so it was acts of the federal government and the Federal Reserve, mainly the Federal Reserve, that tried to kill that. And so Paul Volcker introduced high interest rates under the Fed from the Fed to curb inflation, combined with Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan both, trying to introduce new jobs programs to get the unemployment situation under control. And it ended up working. And Reagan was subsequently reelected in a landslide in '84 because people associated him with economic recovery, even though it was mostly the Federal Reserve that did that, and not necessarily his fiscal policy. It was more monetary policy than fiscal policy that did that. A San Francisco PD SWAT team got a hostage situation, guns blazing, and don't seem to try and arrest anyone. Yeah, it's weird. So we'll have to definitely look at that aspect of it as well. Say what you want. That just speaks volumes about the state or United States law enforcement in the Star Trek timeline. Yeah, my suspicion is that the U.S. and Star Trek's history may have always been more authoritarian than even it is now, because I think probably ahead of us technologically, especially in military areas, because they had, like I said in the last stream, a nuclear weapons platform that was kind of like the Strategic Defense Initiative launching from, an airbase in the 60s. That's not something that we were prepared to do in real life, but they were in the Star Trek universe. So more advanced militarily, for sure. Yeah. Callum Gladden says hi. Hello. Thank you for joining us on the stream. I think we're, like I said, we're an hour or 2 hours, 48 minutes in. So we may wrap this up around midnight. That'll make us our longest. Twitch.tv/LLRedSky. This is our monthly Q&A live stream. Ask us anything about YouTube, about the channel, about movies and TV, about COVID-19, and we'll try our best to answer it. And Sarah is simulcasting Red Dead Redemption 2 on Twitch, so the link to that is in the chat, or you can just go to twitch.tv/LLRedSky and watch that in another tab. Keep them coming, people. You got 7 minutes. No, okay.
I know I'm so late.
Yeah, I'll probably wrap this up just a few minutes after midnight because we will have been going for 3 hours, and I think it's appropriate that the first live stream of quarantine may be the longest. And like I said, thank you all. Appreciate you all joining for our lovely discussion this evening. Springtime. It does seem like the Star Trek United States were fighting a lot more smaller wars during the 60s and 70s. Fortunately, unlike in real life, they probably used U.S. troops in Angola and Yemen. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to explore the alternate kind of military history of the U.S. in the Star Trek timeline. It is, I think, substantially different enough to be worthy of mention. The eugenics wars, I'm still not sure. There is really a consensus, I don't think, about what it entailed exactly. Were they public wars, or were they like I said, the Greg Cox model of them being like secret wars that manifest in the things that we know from real life in the 90s, like the Rwandan genocide and the Bosnia, Kosovo wars and all the other stuff that was going on in the Eastern Hemisphere. Be really interesting to think about. And of course, Kirk in an episode of the original series references the brush wars of the 60s, which is a reference to Vietnam and other wars in the jungle, as it were, in fighting communism, which is what we did do in real life. Laos and Cambodia as well. We had campaigns there. So wars that had a massive impact on the people who fought them, but most people were unaware of it. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's generally true probably about the eugenics wars. We need to come up with some sort of consensus about what's the scale was, because they talk about them like they knew, like, they were public events in the original series and other Star Trek shows. But I think that it could be the case that, and I think it would make sense in universe, that they're wars that they learned about after the fact, declassified documents or whatever detailing like the exploits of Khan Noonien Singh and whatnot, because it's basically the question of, was he a public figure in the 90s in the Star Trek universe, or is he somebody that they found out about later on through historical analysis, and to enough of a degree where they would know that he was behind all of that. So probably most of the fighting was underreported in the 5 p.m. news. You're absolutely right about that too. I mean, something that would have happened overseas naturally would be not receiving as much attention as compared to domestic policy. Things to consider. I'll have to go on the Daystrom Institute subreddit and see what they have to say about it. No, but seriously, that's where I get a lot of good ideas, and I do research there just to see what other people have, what their opinions are about some of these topics in Star Trek, and see what kind of sources they're looking at, so I can go to those sources and read for myself. I mean, that's why some of these videos, by the way, anybody who has not seen my latest Star Trek video about the Greek pantheon in Star Trek, please go watch that. I'm particularly proud of that one because it's the culmination of over 2 years of development, and I've decided it was finally ready for public eyes, and so you can go watch that. I'm sure many of you already have. I'd appreciate a watch. Most people don't know anything about the First and Second Congo Wars or the Angola or 1960s Yemen Civil War. You're absolutely right. So that very well could be a something that manifests as well in the Star Trek universe. So that's something that can probably factor into the video too, stretching back to the 90s. Most people probably didn't think it was an American war or just something paratroopers or Marines were helping in. That's also true because a lot of some of these other conflicts that we've been involved with, we do send people from our military, but it's through alliances and UN coalitions, for example. So yeah, those are all good things to consider. So we'll definitely have to see how that factors into the economic situation that led to past tense. But I think what you were also mentioning last time on last stream about, veterans from the eugenics wars who have gone for all these years without, the benefits they deserve, and the homelessness population growing more so than in real life, and poverty being more widespread because resources are being allocated to, other areas like the military, which is something we're familiar with in real life. But that influencing the economic situation led to the sanctuary districts and whatnot. I agree. That's a good explanation. So I may factor that into the video. All right, folks. Well, it's 12 a.m. So we're 2 hours, 56 minutes in. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here in a minute. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a lively conversation. Thank you guys for joining in. Again, thanks to Kenzie for that super chat. Yeah, we will be here live next time, probably again from quarantine. First or second Sunday in May. Keep an eye out. Springtime. Most of the time, they are helping with the logistics of local allies and security of sensitive bases. That's also true. They are providing a lot of support, and just like in the first Iraq War, the Persian Gulf War, even though that did involve U.S. troops, I mean, intel is very important, and so we have people monitoring stuff from afar. That would also be something that's going on as well. Goodbye. Thank you, Springtime, for all your input and for helping me with the research for my next Star Trek video. It's much appreciated. Thank you for keeping this a lively chat. And yeah, thanks, guys, and everybody who's joined the chat. Next time, like I said, bring questions about any topic under the sun. Well, I don't know about that. Maybe not any topic under the sun, but just bring some creative, interesting questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So we'll keep, I guess. Are you about to end your Twitch stream?
Yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah, watching the Twitch stream as well, guys, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Patreon.com/Anim8orkid if you want to become a patron, and anyway you want to help out. The best way to help out is to watch our videos, though. So do that, and you'll make me very happy. So, all right. Live long and prosper. Happy First Contact Day.